When the doctor told me that surgery was inevitable, I felt the ground slip out from under my feet. At first there was panic. Then a quiet anxiety, which I tried to hide under a mask of calm. "Don't worry, Mom," said the older Anya, "take my hand. We'll take turns being there. We'll never leave you alone." Her eyes were shining with determination, and for a moment I thought everything would be fine. The younger Sasha, jumping up from his seat, added, "I can stay for the first 3 days. I'm free at work." His enthusiasm seemed genuine, but I knew he often promised a lot and delivered little. The middle son, Ilya, grinned slightly. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll at least drop by on the weekend." And the youngest Katya immediately assured, "I will call every 2 hours, even if it's just through a candle." I nodded, trying to believe their words. I wanted to believe, because they had grown up, and I was always proud of them. But somewhere deep in my heart, I was telling them, adult children are not little children, and their words often dissolve in the bustle of everyday life. The next day after the operation, I woke up in a sterile room with long tubes and N4. The first feeling was a strange emptiness. A emptiness that should have been filled by someone familiar, someone from my family. I looked around, there was no one nearby. Anya must have been delayed, I thought, and smiled through my drowsiness. In any case, they will come soon. But the day dragged on. The hours slowly crawled along the wall, and calls and notifications about the children's arrival did not come. Doctors came, nurses brought medicine and food, but it was all cold and soulless compared to the expectation. Relatives. I tried to convince myself that maybe they were just stuck at work, or maybe there was traffic. But on the second day, the emptiness only grew, and suddenly it became clear that no one would come. Not a single message, not a single call, not a single short visit. I remembered how, as children, my children also promised, "Mom, I will never leave you." Then I laughed and hugged them tightly. And now my adult children have disappeared into a world of their own worries and obligations. Third day. The ward seemed huge and empty. The wind in the hallway seemed colder than usual, and the ticking of the clock became the only sign of life. I tried to distract myself, read a magazine, leafed through the news, watched TV. But everything seemed empty. Everything seemed a reminder that I was alone. I remembered every moment when I took care of them, every night when I sat by their bed, when I treated scratches and consoled tears. And now I am alone. As if all the love, all the care, all the energy I'd put into their lives dissolved and returned to me. Not in the form of support, but in the form of cruel silence. On the 5th day, I began to notice strange things. The nurses began to come more often, as if they sensed my loneliness. They smiled, brought hot milk, asked how I was feeling. I felt awkward, but I understood that this was the only care available now. Even if it was professional and not family, it was still something. I tried calling the children. First, Anya got long beeps, then Ilya was busy. Sasha's voicemail. Katya finally answered, but only for 30 seconds. "Yes, Mom, everything is fine. Don't worry." And the connection was lost. Those short words couldn't fill the void, couldn't replace presence. Every morning I hoped for a call. Every evening I expected a visit. But the days went by, one after another, and each brought only emptiness. The ward was becoming more than just a place for treatment, it turned into a space of memory, where I recalled how my children used to surround me with attention, care, and love. And it all seemed like an illusion. By the 10th day, my hospital resembled a quiet island. Nurses walked by. Fellow doctors talked with other patients, but I was invisible. I understood that my physical strength would be restored after the surgery, but the emotional wound remained. For the first time, I felt that adult children might not be there just when they were truly needed. Sometimes I caught myself thinking, maybe they're afraid to see me weak. Maybe everyone is too busy with their own affairs to remember their mother. But none of these versions were comforting. Not a single one. And then I started keeping a diary. Every morning I wrote, "Today I am alone, but I am strong. I will survive." I wrote to hear myself, to feel that my voice existed, even if no one else could hear it. I understood that my story was not unique. Many people go through the pain of loneliness, especially when family grows distant, when children become adults and their lives no longer intersect with their parents' lives. But this understanding did not ease the burden of the moment. It only made the loneliness deeper, like a cold wind piercing through. On the 14th day, I no longer expected anyone. I learned to eat without company, watch TV without laughter, sleep without hugs. And then, in the silence of the hospital room, I felt a strange feeling for the first time. Not joy, but peace. Loneliness became not only pain, but also a time when I could hear myself. A time when I could understand that my life does not end with the promises of children. That my strength is my own. And although my heart still ached from the fact that no one came, I understood one thing. Sometimes being alone is not only a test, but also a lesson. A lesson about how true care comes not only from the outside, but sometimes from within. Day 15. A nurse entered the room, smiled, and said, "Everything is ready for discharge." I packed my things, looking around at this small world that had become both a place of pain and a revelation of my strength. And even though no one had come to my aid personally, I understood that I could get through everything on my own. I left the room with a feeling of slight emptiness, but also with the feeling that I would never again expect others the same way. From that day on, I knew that even when children promise to be there, reality can be different. And it hurts, but it's part of life. Often, the most important lessons come not from the care of others, but from our own survival. When I returned home after discharge, the wait for home seemed almost surreal. The empty apartment greeted me with a silence that was even heavier than the hospital. I put my bag on the floor, took off my robe, and sat on the sofa, feeling a strange relief. I survived. But at the same time, a void that no one could fill. Several days passed before I realized my world had changed. The children didn't call as often as before, nor did they inquire about my well-being. Anya called me from work a couple of times, quickly, as if afraid to be late. Ilya said he was busy with a project, Sasha said he was tired after a business trip, and Katya said she didn't want to disturb me. Each answer was polite but distant. And then, for the first time, I felt that The promises I'd made before the surgery were just words. I could have been angry, I could have been offended, but instead I felt a strange calm that I realized that loneliness doesn't always come to break you. Sometimes it comes to show that we are stronger than we think. I started walking more, meeting my neighbors, going to the library where I would read for long periods, enjoying the silence, and suddenly I discovered that being alone can be not only painful, but also surprisingly liberating. One evening, while sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea, I suddenly heard the doorbell ring. An elderly neighbor, whom I hardly knew, stood on the threshold with a smile and a pie in her hands. "I thought you might be lonely after the hospital," she said. This small gesture of warmth and attention made me cry for the first time in a long time. The tears flowed not from resentment, but from the fact that even strangers can show concern when relatives have forgotten. Gradually, I began to notice that life goes on even when the children are not around. I returned to my old hobbies, started writing a diary, and started walking more in the fresh air. And the more I filled my day with things to do, the less empty I felt. Loneliness is no longer a prison. It became a space in which I learned to hear myself. And then an unexpected turn occurred. The children answered one of my calls with confusion and a guilty tone. Anya admitted, "Mom, we didn't think about how hard it would be for you." Sasha added, "We were just too caught up in our own affairs." Ilya said, "I'm sorry, I promised to be there, but I couldn't." Katia sighed quietly. "I thought a short call was enough." I listened to them and understood that their words of apology were sincere, but what was more important was that I had already changed. I was no longer dependent on their presence. I was stronger than I thought I could forgive, not because I needed their care, but because I understood that now I could take care of myself. The following weeks became a time of gradual restoration of relations. We started seeing each other more often, but on new terms, without promises, without expectations. Just communication. And it was really great. I realized that sometimes you have to go through the pain of loneliness to appreciate real connection, not illusory promises. One evening I was sitting on the balcony, watching the sunset. The wind gently ruffled my hair, and I smiled. My body has recovered from the surgery. My soul found peace, and even if my children sometimes forgot to call, I no longer felt forgotten because I learned to be my own support. I realized the main lesson. Taking care of yourself is more important than any promises from others. Sometimes those closest to us can't be there, but that doesn't mean we should remain blind to our own power. I survived 15 days of loneliness in the hospital and realized that strength does not come from relying on others, but from finding support within yourself. And when one evening all my children came to me together to finally spend the evening with tea and conversation, I greeted them with a smile. Without reproach, without resentment, only with the understanding that even if they see and be together again, I already know that loneliness is not a sentence, but a chance to discover the real me.